The reason I decided to make this video is because I recently came across something I hadn't seen in years. It's a clip of me recording a presentation from more than 12 years ago. And at first, I wasn't sure whether to share it publicly, and you'll see exactly why in just a moment.
Today, I will be using a FitTech Force platform to demonstrate its use for assessing strength and power capacities.
Because even though now I speak at conferences all around the world, I present regularly, and of course, I run this YouTube channel, well, public speaking is still something that I am actively working on. Based on that clip, I've clearly made some progress with my presenting skills. And in fact, you can even see that if you look back at some of my initial YouTube videos on this channel. I think there's a big difference between then and now. But that doesn't mean to say that my progress has always been linear. It's me saying that this is still a work in progress. And selfishly, part of the reason behind this video is about putting these lessons into words, sharing them publicly, and holding myself accountable for the progress I want to continue making with presenting and public speaking. In sports science, communication is central to our job. Whether it's presenting at a conference, presenting information or data in a meeting, or just having everyday conversations with athletes and coaches and other staff. If we can't communicate our ideas and our information clearly, then we can't turn that into action. So in this video, I want to share a few things that have helped me, whether that's about specifically presenting, both in person and online, or whether just communicating day to day. They're not necessarily specific rule, but they are tools and tips that I personally keep coming back to. The first one sounds obvious, I think, but is probably the most important. Know your content. So I personally used to spend hours and hours perfecting my PowerPoint presentation slides, playing around with the fonts, the colors, the animations, and the transitions. But I didn't spend nearly enough time actually rehearsing what I was going to say with each slide. Now I'm trying to rehearse the talk itself out loud as if I'm presenting to the walls around me. I practice at home, in the car, speaking out loud, and at times I also even record myself on voice notes so that I can play it back and actually listen to myself presenting my talk. And honestly, yes, listening to yourself can be really cringy, but it makes you so much more familiar with both your content as well as the flow of the talk. It's exactly the same if you're going into a meeting with reports and dashboards. You need to not necessarily rely on them, but be confident in the talk you give that summarizes what's inside them. But do rehearse it in a real way, not just inside your head. Okay, this one's much more personal. So a few years ago, whilst online meeting, I actually fainted. I was at my standing desk and I passed out and ended up hitting my head. Thankfully, nothing too bad, nothing too dramatic. And it was probably just dehydration on the day. But to be honest, that experience stayed with me. And over the following year, every time I gave a presentation, whether online or in person, my body started reacting as if it was going to happen again. I'd feel really anxious and I'd always get lightheaded as if I was going to faint, regardless of the dehydration and nutrition that I'd made sure I'd had before. My physiology would just take over. Honestly, it was really uncomfortable and I had no choice but to take it seriously. So I reached out to my old colleague, Dr. Desiree Fester, the team sports psychologist at the Buffalo Bills, and she helped me develop a pre-presentation routine focused on breathing and preparation for the talk. Now, before every talk, I slow my breathing down, especially the exhale. I take control of my physiology, and I remind myself that these sensations are just my nervous system doing its job. These nerves and anxiety are perhaps something that I'll never necessarily get rid of. But having a routine gives me something to anchor to when I feel out of control in my body. Now, when the nerves kick in, often body language and eye contact are the first things to go. And if you think back to that clip right at the start, I'm clearly not being very aware or intentional with either my eye contact or my body language. So as well as taking control of my body with my breathing, I try to anchor myself physically as well with my body language, with planting my feet and owning that space in a confident way. Especially if you're nervous, finding one or two kind looking, engaged individuals in your audience to anchor and focus on can be really useful. That sense of connection on an individual basis can really change everything, especially that self-talk in your head whilst you're presenting. And this links closely as well with online presenting. So like many of us, when I'm on an online meeting, I'm often just looking down at the person on my screen, seeing how they're reacting, watching them talk. But that makes it look perhaps like you're talking to yourself. You're not talking directly at them. And whilst that might be okay in a meeting, when you are presenting or recording a video such as this, you want the audience to know that you are looking at them and to think that you are talking directly to them. It can take practice to remember to look up here rather than down at your screen. Maybe you even need to use a sticky note or something to remind you to look here. But it can make a huge difference to that connection piece. Equally, when we are talking or presenting online, we need to think about our positioning on the screen. Your camera should be close enough that people can feel your presence, but not too close that it feels uncomfortable to the viewer. If you're too far away, your energy disappears into the background. Whereas if you're too close, it can feel overwhelming for the person watching. It's also worth looking at the angle of our camera, whether they're looking up or down or in this more neutral position. That's something that I still get wrong to this day when I look back on some of my videos. This framing, along with the lighting, the background, none of it necessarily needs to be perfect. And in reality, it's, of course, often changing. But it's worth thinking about, especially for an important online presentation or even job interview that is now common. When you set yourself up well, you just naturally come across as more confident, even if internally you are working through those nerves and anxieties as well. Before I finish, there's one more thing I want to share, and it's not so much a tip, but more of a reflection. At this point, I'm hopefully sounding confident, speaking in a steady, consistent voice in this video. That approach now feels pretty solid to me. However, what I'm working on now is using my voice more intentionally, varying my pace, slowing down to really emphasize certain points, but then bringing more energy and more speed also when it's needed. And as well as speed, being deliberate with the volume which I use when I'm presenting. I'm not sharing this really out of advice. I'm saying it as a reminder to myself as to what I'm currently working on, and to share that development never stops with this skill. There's always another layer. And even for someone like myself, who's fairly well experienced now with presenting, I'm still trying to get better at this skill. If there's one thing that I've learned, and I try to remind myself, it's that public speaking isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's probably not a skill that we ever just master and move on from. Honestly, I still get nervous. I still doubt myself. I still have the voices in my head whilst I'm up on stage presenting. But I still rehearse. I still reflect on every video I record and every talk that I give. And that's because I care about connecting with people and I care about the content that I'm presenting. But ultimately, if public speaking and presenting feels hard for you, please know that you're not alone. I really hope you found this video useful. I know it's a little bit different to my normal video content on this channel, so I'd love to hear from you if you did find it of value. Otherwise, I hope you will like and subscribe and come back again soon for some more sports science insights.